Raider Nation, what's going on? You're watching the Raiders Report, and today's show is presented by Manscaped. If there's any guys out there, hell, if there's a girl out there, you're like, man, my dude is rocking a George W. Bush right now. Get rid of that shit. Go to manscaped.com, use promo code Raiders, where you can save 20% off and get free shipping. So what's coming up here? I got some news, and rumors around Ndamukong Suh, and we're also going to do a reaction towards the JaMarcus Russell interview because, well, I got a few hot takes that I want to get in on that. Now, probably the biggest storyline over the last month connecting the silver and black has been this defensive tackle free agent, Ndamukong Suh. And there's been some conflicting reports out there of whether or not certain teams are interested in the veteran. So what we're going to do here on today's show to start this off is we're going to go through all three teams that have recently been linked to Suh, and then we'll talk about whether or not I think that they're actually interested or not. The first team that we're going to bring up here is the Cleveland Browns. And I talked on the Raiders Report on Tuesday when I go live. Remember, I go live every single Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific, and I talked about the Browns not being interested in Ndamukong Suh. Well, more conflicting reports come out. Mary Kay, who I believe is one of the top people that cover Cleveland, she had this to say yesterday: have written several times this offseason that the Browns are not interested in Ndamukong Suh. Nothing's changed. The reason why she's talking about that is because Tyler, dragging his nuts all over Twitter, he tweeted the Browns are another team interested in Ndamukong Suh per source. So you have two sources going back and forth saying Browns are interested, Browns aren't interested. For me, I'm going to believe Mary Kate because I know she's been doing a good job. She's been covering this team for a very long time. So for that reason, I believe Mary Kay, and I believe that the Browns are not interested in Ndamukong Suh, which then leads you to two other teams. And if you've watched the show probably in the last 48 hours, you'll know what teams I'm talking about. The first team here that I'm going to bring up is the Minnesota Vikings. And in terms of overall team needs, Minnesota, just like the Raiders, have a big-time need at the defensive interior position. So you have the Vikings, and then you have the Raiders, right? In terms of Las Vegas, this is an interactive show. The Raiders Report is built on just trying to see what you guys have to say and what you have to think about. Here's the other thing. I like having a good time, and I can guarantee you this. Can't guarantee if Ndamukong signs or not, but I can promise you one thing. If he does, we're going live. Put your drinking pants on, sit down, get comfortable for an hour, maybe two, and we are going to party with the nation. So hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications, because we've done a lot of wild and crazy live shows in the years that I've done this show. This might be one of the craziest, so seriously, hit the sub button. I don't want you to miss it. Let's continue to talk about Ndamukong Suh and how he is linked to Las Vegas. The Raiders, they remain interested. I know what people like Vincent Bonsignore said. I know what Josina Anderson says. Personally, I don't even think Josina's even a source at this point. Vincent just throws a whole bunch of stuff at the wall, sees what sticks. I'm telling you, the Raiders are interested still in Ndamukong. They need a defensive tackle. They want to be able to build their interior room. Here's the other new tidbit, if you will, that we've learned in, I'll say, the last 24 hours. Suh wants to sign somewhere before training camp. At least that's the latest report that I have seen. The reason why that's interesting for the Raiders is because they have that extra preseason game, August 4th against the Jacksonville Jaguars, which means they start training camp for their veterans a little bit earlier. So you got your rookies, your UDFAs, your quarterbacks. They report July 18th. But if Suh does, in fact, want to be signed with the team before the vets report, the Raiders here start 6 days earlier than the Browns and the Vikings. I am a believer if the Raiders don't get a deal done with Suh by this date, it might never happen. So we know that Ndamukong has said in the past that playing for the Raiders would be fun. We also knew that he grew up a Raider fan. At least that's what the internet tells me. So how about this, y'all? If you want Ndamukong repping the silver and black, repping that shield and showing up on Thursdays, Mondays, Sundays, hell, I want to see him in a Raiders uniform. And if you agree with me, I want you to smash that like button right now. It's been a while since I've had 1,000 likes on a video. Let's change that. Like the video. I might even send it to Ndamukong himself. So I want him on the team. So I figured what I would do here is I'm going to give you 5 reasons why I just think it makes sense for the Raiders to pursue and go out and try to sign Ndamukong. The first one, he's still a reliable player. I know, Mitch, he's getting up there in age. You're right. And maybe he's already preparing for his life after football because, man, all he tweets about now is the housing market and how bad our economy is. Thanks, Joe. But in terms of the overall numbers here, you're looking at 27 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 13 quarterback hits, 6 sacks. That was last season on a good team. Yes, I get it, but he is still able to get it done. The other reasons, well, I'll tell you in just a second, but if you haven't already gotten started with Manscaped, make sure you do. The biggest secret that has not been told, everyone's wondering, how the heck is Zach Wilson getting with all these MILFs? Dude uses Manscaped, guarantee you. And he probably uses the promo code Raiders, and you guys can too at Manscaped.com. The performance package, it's going to have the Lawnmower 4.0. You get the Weed Whacker in there to get rid of those annoying nose hairs. Seriously, have you ever seen somebody and they got all these nose hairs sticking out? It's kind of hard to not look at. We also got the ball toner, the ball deodorant. If you put deodorant underneath your arms, why the hell would you not put it on your ball sack? I walked to work today. It was 104 degrees. When I got here, guess what? It was sweaty down there. Luckily, I use my ball toner and ball deodorant so it doesn't stink. So producer Jack, when he's sitting next to me, he's not like, what the hell is that Famunda cheese? Well, luckily, there's no Famunda cheese here on the Raiders Report. So go to Manscaped.com, promo code Raiders. If you can't remember that, it's down in the comments. It's down in the description of today's video. Let's go to the next reason why the Raiders should sign Ndamukong Suh. You need depth at the defensive tackle position. You know, I like drinking Fireball. I like having a few beers. And at this point, I've thought about every time I've said this over the last month, I should take a drink. If that was the case, I would be drunk every single episode. Now, sure, once in a while on a Tuesday, shout out to David Zahn, that ends up happening. But when you look at this defensive tackle room right now, Hankins, Bilal Nichols, they're both banged up. You got 2 rookies. Everybody else on this list, Vernon Butler, Tyler Lancaster, Andrew Billings, Kendall Vickers, Kyle Petco, Myron Tagovailoa, Amosa. Like, these guys could end up selling car insurance for State Farm in a few weeks from now. They are not reliable options at the defensive tackle spot. On top of that, he's a tough veteran leadership. And, like, that's what he's going to bring to this locker room. Yes, big-time Hank. He's 30 years old. He's been in nine years, I believe, now in the NFL, which that helps you out a lot. But you just drafted 2 young players that you're hoping, and Matthew Butler and Neil Farrell Jr. can be, I don't want to say the face of your defensive interior, but you're hoping with this new regime that they can be that new face. I'm telling you all right now, I would love for our 2 young players to be able to learn behind guys like Bilal Nichols, learn behind guys like Jonathan Hankins, but absolutely learn behind Ndamukong Suh, who has played 191 career games. He still stays in tip-top shape. You have to. To miss only 2 games since like 2011, you have to not only be a great player during the regular season, but you also have to be there mentally and physically in the offseason. And from what I understand, Suh is just one of those guys who is just beating father time and still playing at a high level. When you look at a lot of the other Raiders defensive tackles, I think we have some solid run stoppers, okay? Hankins, to me, run stopper. Neil Farrell Jr., run stopper. Matthew Butler, he can do a little bit of both. Bilal Nichols is pretty good also at stopping the run, get after the quarterback. But realistically, none of our defensive tackles have any real-time experience or are good or above averages, I guess the way I should say it, at getting after the QB. Suh, yes, he is getting older, but back-to-back seasons, 6+ sacks. He had 4.5 sacks in 2018, 4.5 sacks in 2017, but 12 sacks over the past 2 seasons. That's pretty damn good to me. When you look at the Raiders' defensive tackle career sack leaders, Hankins leads the list with 14.5 throughout his entire career. Bilal Nichols has 11. Vernon Butler has 8. Andrew Billings, 3.5. Kyle Petco, 2. Kendall Vickers, 2. Tyler Lancaster, 1.5. Then you got your rookies and your UDFAs. We need some defensive tackles to be able to also get after the quarterback. And the final reason, and this is a reason that I like to bring up pretty often, Suh wants to be a Raider. And I understand a lot of times You sign some of these players, they get a big-time contract, and you're hoping that they show up and they're motivated. But we've also seen in recent years some of the free agent moves that we've made. Trent Brown, LaMarcus Joyner, Corey Littleton, they show up, and I don't know if they were 100% motivated right away. They got their paycheck, and they're like, you know what, I'm good. Well, to me, Suh wants to be a Raider. He's made that very clear, whether he's tweeted it. And when I see pictures like this is cool to me. I mean, this is a long time ago, but Ndamukong rocking a Raiders coat, Raiders hoodie, when he got to meet Charles Barkley. I mean, this is a really cool picture to me. That tells me that if we sign Ndamukong, it's going to be money well spent. And, well, if you follow him on Twitter, you'll know that he's all about spending money very, very precisely. The next thing coming up here on the Raiders Report, we're going to give a reaction to this, I'm going to call it interview, from JaMarcus Russell, because in an interview with The Pivot, it was titled like something like All Information or All Tell All, something like that. I don't know. He's basically blaming the Raiders for all of his horrible moments in the NFL, off-field, just blaming the Raiders for his terrible career. So if you haven't watched the interview yet, please, I would appreciate if you did so. Here's my question. Who's to blame? Are you blaming the Raiders? Or are you blaming JaMarcus Russell? Who's to blame for him being regarded as the biggest bust in NFL history? Type J for JaMarcus, or you can type R for Raiders. My answer, and I laugh out loud because this is JaMarcus Russell's fault. And when you hear the things that he's saying, when you listen to the entire interview, I learned 3 things. The first thing that I learned is Childs can't take blame. He's deflecting, and it realistically makes me think of a 6 or 7-year-old doing something wrong and then trying to blame everybody else. JaMarcus just sounds like a big fat baby the entire interview. He says bro a lot. I'm not kidding you. Homeboy probably said bro 100 times in that interview and spoke maybe 102 words. And then the last thing, JaMarcus is a bust, and I do believe that when you listen to the interview, he's trying to blame the blank tapes on the Raiders. He's trying to blame all these things on Las Vegas. There are certain people, when they get drafted, or there are certain people, when they show up to work, I like to call it the bust mentality. You know that person's never going to be successful. And to me, listening to that interview, I am not surprised whatsoever that JaMarcus Russell is the biggest bust in NFL history. Now, I am going to wrap up this show right now, and if anybody's going to defend JaMarcus, that's fine. You can find me on IG. You can find me on Twitter. I'm not going to hide from y'all. I am at MitchellRens365. When I hear people talk bad about the Raiders or take shots at the organization like JaMarcus did, I think it's a low ball move. I think it's childish, and I think it's really quite sad. Did the Raiders do everything in their power to put him in the best perfect situation at times? No. But they also gave him enough money to make sure that he was taken care of and his family's taken care of for his entire life, or at least you hope so. So for him to do that, I thought it was a low move. So if you guys want to come at me on Twitter, on IG, I'm heading out of here at MitchellRens365.